Hi, it's Grandma Roseanne. Are you ready for like a really interesting, beautiful dish for us for a wonderful dinner? We're going to be making a Chianti, which is an Italian wine, a Chianti short rib braised stew. Oh, that sounds so good. All right, now then, we're gonna get right to the meat of the program. Really to the meat of the program. It's calling for 2.5 pounds of short ribs that are boneless, or a 2-pound chuck roast. So I found short ribs, but I didn't find them boneless. So what I did, they're very, very easy to do. If you just take your rib, the bone is straight down. It's not one of these funky things that does that. So I go straight down, release the meat from the bone. There's like a little, on fish they call it a silver skin. I don't know if you call it that on beef or not. I want to remove that too because that has a tendency to get tough. Very easy to get rid of, just like on fish, comes right off. And I'm trimming off excess fat. I don't need a lot of fat in there. Now we cut this into 2-inch cubes, which is a rather large cube actually, but it's going to cook a long time. Okay, so I have already pre-done those. Now, you know I am not getting rid of these bones. You know that that's where the flavor is. So if I ever made this again, trust me, I would find it with the bones and then create the boneless from it. But I'm using every one of these in it. What we need to do is add some salt to this. And we're adding 3/4 of a teaspoon. We're going to mix that up. And then we're going to let this rest for 30 minutes. And what it's doing, it's a multi-purpose. Now see, when you work with your hands, you feel stuff. There's a big, rigid something here. I don't know what that is, but I'm quite certain nobody would want to eat it. All right, I don't know, it's really tough. All right. So as I was saying, what this does is it is going to extract moisture from the meat, and it's also going to flavor the meat. So it's dual purpose. Now, these bones that I am so excited about having, I'm just going to spread them out like this. Going to put a little bit of salt on them. Just like that. Now, we're going to let all of that sit here for 30 minutes, okay? This is one of those recipes, because so many of my recipes, I tell you guys, oh, it's so fast, it's so quick, it doesn't take any time at all. This one you have to allocate time. You just have to be willing to do that in order for it to get all of the intensity of flavor into that meat and for that meat to become ever so tender. I'll be back in 30 minutes. Well, I would like to tell you it's 30 minutes later, but it's not. It's another day later, really. What I did is that I ran out of time yesterday. So what I did is I stuck the meat in the refrigerator, which I love to do anyway. And I set it in there without cover, and it gets kind of crusty. And when it does that, then the fond that you develop when you cook it is so much better. So these have been in for like 18 hours, but now we're going to continue on with the recipe. But you don't have to do that, really. If you want to just do it normally, wait your 30 minutes and then pick it up here, perfect. All right. So on a medium-high heat, I'm putting in a tablespoon of oil. And the main thing here is you do not want to crowd the pan. Don't crowd the pan because you don't want it to steam. You really want it to get that great crust on it, and it's not going to happen if they're all squished in together. you want to do is remove as much moisture as you can from the beef, because moisture definitely is the enemy of browning. So we want to get that as dry as we can. I'm doing it on both sides of the meat. Now I'm going to test to make sure my grease is hot enough. Can you hear the sizzle? That's telling me it's hot enough. This little screen helps a lot. It does, because the meat's going to splatter, the oil's going to splatter. And if you're anything like me, you want to putz around with it and you want to mess around with the food and you want to stir it, leave it alone. It's so hard for me to do that. Leave it alone because you want it to build a crust. And that's not going to happen if Roseanne keeps poking her fingers in there. So this helps me too, to remind me to keep my finger out of there. In total, you're going to want to brown each section about 8 minutes, but I'm doing about every 3 minutes and turning it several times here. So I want to get all sides of it. Well, our beef and our bones are all browned, so they're perfect. And I sampled the meat. It was absolutely delicious, so it was really good. So now is where the magic happens. Now we start all the flavoring. So I have 1 cup of Chianti. This was the Chianti that I used, if you can see that. It's really a very, very nice Chianti. I think the rule of thumb is if you're not willing to drink it at dinner, you really shouldn't cook with it. Well, this was so good that I bought a second bottle so we can have it with dinner. That's how good it was. Then to this, we're going to add 1/2 cup of water. Now, I have 2 shallots. It was specified to cut them lengthwise, which I did. I love shallots. I think they're just very, 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 very delicate in flavor and delicious. This calls for 1 carrot, chopped. I have 1/2 of a head of garlic. The whole thing goes in. 2 Bayleaf. Now the next ingredient, I don't think it's very common to put in a stew. I have never. It is Knox unflavored gelatin. Okay, you can see that. And I don't know, but they call for it, so I'm using it. But it's just thickener, so I'm sure it'll be just fine. And it was 1/2 tablespoon of the gelatin. So I did a bouquet of herbs. It is a sprig of rosemary, 2 sprigs of thyme, some chives. And I just bundled it because it's so much easier than fishing them out one by one. That goes in. Now, the recipe also called for cracked peppercorns. Now this is hilarious, you guys. I went to 3 stores trying to find cracked peppercorns. I couldn't find them. I could not find them. And I went to some nice stores. So I'm sitting in the parking lot of the store, going online, cracked peppercorns. Well, all you have to do is put them in a bag. So I used green peppercorns and black peppercorns, put them in a bag, and then we just rolled it and smashed it with a rolling pin, and we got perfect peppercorns that are cracked. So I don't have to go looking for them ever again. So this is 1/2 tablespoon of cracked peppercorns. 1/2 teaspoon of anchovy paste. It's amazing how much wonderful flavor comes from anchovy paste. And no, it does not taste or smell fishy. It totally dissolves. And so don't say yuck. Try it. And it's easier if you buy it in a tube and you can squeeze it out rather than having to buy the whole anchovy fillets and smash them up. I just buy the tube. And we need 1/2 tablespoon of tomato paste, which is going to give it that little bit of flavor, but it's going to give it beautiful color. Oh, think what's really a nice little trick that I've learned, because when you get tomato paste and it comes in a small can, and you use 1 tablespoon, a half a tablespoon, a teaspoon, what do you do with the rest of it? Oh, come on. I was throwing way too much tomato paste away. So now I just put it in a baggie, stick it in the freezer. When I need it, I pull the bag out, and within minutes it's defrosted and it's fine. So no more waste in this kitchen. And now we've brought this up to a simmer, and now I'm putting in the bones. I have to tell you, I'm very excited about the bones. I think they're just going to take this stew up to a different level. And the meat all goes in. Always get your drippings in there too. And I'm putting in about 5 baby portobellos, because I think they are nutritionally so wonderful, and we love the taste of them, and they go with everything. Just going to mix this up a little bit. Get some of that liquid on the top of this. As I told you before, I have my oven set at 300 degrees, and I have the rack on the lower middle, okay? So middle, lower, not the bottom. Now we're going to cover this, but we're going to make sure that it is well sealed. We want all of that steam staying in. So I have 2 pieces of foil. It's going to go over the pan like this. The lid goes on. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then I make sure that it's crimped all the way around. So we don't want any of that heat getting out. We want it all in there, just tenderizing the meat, bringing all the flavors forward, and it'll be delicious. So this is going to be in the oven for 2.5 hours. Halfway through, I'm going to take it out and stir it. And I don't think you need to see me do that. Just know that halfway through, I'm going to do that, okay? So I'll see you guys back in a little bit. Well, we've hit our time. I had mine in for 2.5 hours, so it's time to get it out now. So be very cautious when you lift the lid. Be sure to lift it away from you so that that steam doesn't get you. You'll get a pretty bad burn if you're not careful. So I'm going to remove the bones first, because they have done their job. Now I'm putting the meat into a bowl, because we're going to separate the vegetables out. Now we need to strain the vegetables out of the liquid. Want to get all of that juice out, because that's so flavorful. Oh my goodness, you guys. I tasted it. It is so good. Remember to pull your bay leaves and your herbs out too. Okay, now if you have a grease separator like this, it's wonderful to use. If not, just leave it in your container like this and let it set for a little bit, like maybe 15 minutes, and the grease will rise to the top. I'm going to use this one, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. It'll just make it happen that much faster. Now into a small bowl, I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. This is going to be our thickening agent for our sauce. And while we are waiting for that fat to separate, in my pot, I'm going to put in a 1/2 cup of Chianti, and we're going to bring that up to a boil. This, we're adding some ground pepper, and once it's come up to a boil, then we're going to reduce it and let it simmer for 15 minutes. And what's happening with that reduction is that you're losing the alcohol to begin with, but then it is just getting into that intense flavor of the Chianti, which is going to be magnificent. Now we're going to make a slurry. I have a half a teaspoon of cornstarch, a half a cup of wine. You just want to mix that up really good. Just like this. Now we're going to add the slurry, which is the cornstarch and the other half cup of wine. And we have separated, so now I am going to leave the fat there. We bring all of this up to a simmer, adding a little bit of salt to taste, a little bit of pepper, before this reduces, I'm just going to taste just for seasoning. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is really, really excellent. So rich. Wow. Okay. We are at a simmer. So now we're going to cover it again for 8 minutes. I just checked and it was to a boil. So I had to turn it down really, really low, but I am also using a cast iron, which really conducts and holds heat. So just watch yours. Be careful so you don't let all the liquid evaporate on you. Now we can return the meat, this beautiful meat and mushrooms, back into our sauce. Well, I truly do not know if I have ever seen a stew this beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. I have made stews all my life, but I will tell you, this is the most beautiful one I have ever made, and so flavorful. I'm just gonna take a little bite here. I think it would be, I'm serving this over buttered noodles, but I think it would be extraordinary over mashed potatoes or a risotto or polenta, anything. I just think this is just like a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful dish. The meat is gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the flavoring is just perfect. I will keep this and I will always make this recipe. You know I'm going to leave ingredients below for you. Subscribe, come back anytime. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and the thumbs up, and give us a little tap on the bell so you know when we're recording again. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.